How do you do, friends? It's another beautiful day here in the Texas Hill Country where I am. As always, I hope it's beautiful where you are. And if not, I, at the very least, hope you're happy, healthy, and safe. And perhaps even sitting with a loved one who thinks that you are the absolute bee's tits. So, as promised, I'm going to talk about another important class of herbs that I think is really useful for today's taxed, maxed, and vaxxed modern human. A group known as nervines. Now, these would be the botanicals to call on first for the person who's chronically, or in some cases, like acutely stressed and has panic attacks, or there may be hyperarousal that we often see, like with PTSD. They may have insomnia, other sleep disturbances that lead to fatigue the next day. There may be indigestion, anxiety, depression, feeling scattered, irritated, or maybe a little bit ungrounded. There may also be some neuropathy or pain and inflammation. Now, nervines are a class of botanicals that have a beneficial effect on the nervous system. They help to reduce that sympathetic overdrive or that fight or flight, as well as anxiety and irritability, by balancing the autonomic nervous system and inducing a sense of calm or relaxation. They can be used during the day to blunt a hyper-aroused state, or in the evening to help induce sleep. And for a lot of people who are in desperate need of healing, sometimes just being able to get that parasympathetic nervous system to engage, or the rest and digest, just that alone can be like the main jump start that's needed to begin that healing process, especially when we see things like malnutrition and all of its ugly downstream effects due to poor digestion that the body is in due to that constant state of fight or flight. And then in some cases, there's even some nervines that benefit the digestive system directly, like chamomile or lemon balm. And just so I'm clear, there's nothing inherently wrong with the sympathetic nervous system being in charge, as long as we're talking about short term. In fact, it's exactly the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight. That's exactly the system that we want engaged whenever we're talking about survival, because it helps us run away from danger or like turn around and knuckle up to it. The issue is having it engaged around the clock due to chronic stressors like hidden infections or trauma, or the constant exposure to EMFs or blue light from the tech screens and indoor lighting. And so these are all what I call modern day saber-toothed tigers, and they keep our brains and our bodies flooded with cortisol and adrenaline, which is extremely detrimental to the system long term, especially the immune system and the digestive system. So just like we think of, say, an apple or a carrot or steak or an egg as food that nourishes the body, nervines can be thought of as food that directly nourishes the central nervous system. And it has like these gentle cumulative effects which help to reduce the frequency and intensity of your irritability, your cranky moods, your anxiety, feelings of burnout. And then within this class of herbs, nervines are kind of broken down and even classified further according to the action that they have on the central nervous system. So first we have stimulants. And so like in times when our nervous system is underactive, or we have low motivation or low energy or depression, these herbs will stimulate the nervous system. And so like the ones that we probably know of the most, or that you hear of the most, would be like cacao and coffee and tea and yerba mate. And then we have relaxants. And so as the name says, these herbs can calm and relax. And in some cases, when we're talking about higher doses, they can sedate the nervous system. And so, this allows you to reduce muscle tension and stress, and it helps promote better moods and mental clarity and cognition. And then within this group, there's like a subcategory called hypnotics, and these herbs are the more muscular versions of relaxants, and they can induce sleep and just like knock you out. Also, you should be cautious with both relaxants and hypnotics when it comes to dosing, because like too much for too long can actually end up having the opposite effect and end up depleting the central nervous system. And likewise, make sure that you're in a safe place before taking them and don't need to drive anywhere after taking them, because they can be really powerful. They can leave you feeling a little groggy the next day, so you also may want to skip them if you have like an exam or a presentation, or just need to have mental clarity or cognition the next day. But if you're dealing with like an acute trauma or state of anxiety or something like fear-inducing, like you have to go fly somewhere, but you're terrified of flying, then hypnotics can be really beneficial in that regard. So these are things like California poppy, kava kava, passion flower, hops, wild lettuce. Those are like powerful medicine. And then another group of nervines, and this is really my favorite group. These are the tropho-restoratives, also known as like tonic herbs or tonic nervines. And so like I said the other day in my discussion on adaptogens, wherein the tonic action of the herbs is such that they work better the longer you take them. Same here. And so, the trophic state is like the vital capacity of an organ or a tissue or system. And in the presence of a chronic stressor, like our modern lifestyles, anxiety, depression, inflammation, you start to experience a deficiency in your vital reserve or capacity, which over time leads to a loss of function. And so in this regard, tropho-restoratives are probably the most important group of botanicals with regards to stress and anxiety and strengthening the central nervous system, because these herbs actually help to repair and rebuild and restore blown out tissues and damaged cells that are needed for a healthy nervous system. And an important distinction with regard to tropho-restoratives is that when they do help to rebuild or restore or repair, it's a long-term repair. It could be permanent, but let's just say it's a long-term repair, rather than a temporary effect that happens only as long as you take the herb. And so that permanence, or how long that repair lasts, it really depends on other factors involving the remediation of those unrelenting stressors. So like, you can't just take the herbs and then expect them to work long term if you're just going to keep sneaking up on that saber-toothed tiger and kicking them in the nuts. That's not a good idea or a good use of these herbs. Just step away from the tiger and stop kicking. So they work on a much deeper level to help make you feel more emotionally resilient and calm. And then due to their toning ability, the longer you take them, the better they work, because they strengthen the system. And so, within this group of tropho-restoratives, my favorite is milky oats. But there are others like holy basil, and lion's mane is sometimes considered, I think, a tropho-restorative. Ashwagandha. And ashwagandha is also, as I said the other day, is also an adaptogen. And if you listen to my discussion on adaptogens, you might notice how both adaptogens and nervines, they sound really similar. And you're right. Both classes of botanicals help the body manage and resolve the stress response. The main difference is that if you remember what I said about adaptogens, and that they help restore balance to create subtle long-term effects on the body as a whole, whereas nervines are hyper-focused on directly nourishing and repairing the central nervous system itself. And so while all of the marketing hype has you believing that adaptogens will be your saving grace, while neglecting to tell you that they should really only be used in conjunction with making lifestyle changes, as I said the other day, nervines can actually be beneficial and helpful to get you over that hump of not feeling motivated or feeling too stressed out to begin making lifestyle changes, by helping to nourish and rebuild and restore and rejuvenate that central nervous system. And in my opinion, nervines really outperform adaptogens in that regard, although I really like pairing them together for a more synergistic effect. So Now, I want to quickly discuss the nervine botanicals that are used in Mellow Tone versus the nervines that you're seeing used in other products being touted as coffee replacements and stuff. However, I'm not going to go too deeply into the botanicals themselves because I don't want this video to be too long. Instead, I'll make other shorter videos on those individual herbs themselves, hopefully like a minute or two. But for now, I just want to highlight the differences between the different groups of nervines that are being used in astrobotanical products versus the other ones you see on the market, so that you're a little bit more informed as a consumer. And also, I want to be careful with flat out shitting on other products. I want to be respectful, even though I may disagree with them. And I have no idea, obviously, why they chose the ingredients they did. So everything that I'm going to tell you here in that regard is my opinion, and it's pure speculation based on my knowledge of both this market and of botanical medicine. So as I said in my adaptogen video, many of the companies are using some nervines, particularly in their sleep and nighttime products. But the ones that they're using, or the ones that I'm seeing, are either from the relaxant or the hypnotic group. And so I see things like valerian and kava kava, or just kava, passion flower, and hops. Those are the main ones. And so if you think back to what I said about hypnotics, these are really powerful medicine, powerful herbs. Like, they can really knock you out and induce sleep quickly. But they can also leave you feeling groggy the next day, and so they shouldn't be used long term. Now, if I was marketing a product that claimed to help put you to sleep, it'd be a pretty neat trick to use an herb or two or three that knocks your ass out, so that you're like, wow, that product really works. And then it's a win for them in the marketing department. But again, I really caution their use long term or for inducing sleep, when what I believe the vast majority of today's modern humans need is really a tonic that works on the level of trophorestoratives or tonic nervines to actually help restore and heal the central nervous system, so that the sleep that you do experience as a result is what I like to call true sleep. And so that you wake up the next day feeling refreshed and restored and full of energy and mental clarity. And so in Mellow Tone, I used the trophorestorative nervines, the ones that actually work directly on the central nervous system by repairing and rejuvenating and restoring function and balance to damaged and worn out tissues and cells and organs. So botanicals like milky oats, which I think is really the star of the show in Mellow Tone, as is oat straw. To my knowledge, there's no other product on the market commercially that's using them, these botanicals, and in this way, likely due to the high cost, as well as, they're not typically considered convenience herbs or to be used like instant coffee, where you just pour hot water over them and then use your little frother and then bolt out the door. Oats actually need a little bit of time to steep. And you'll also notice that you need to strain them out of the finished tea. And so that's why I recommend brewing Mellow Tone in a French press, so that the herbs have time to steep in that hot liquid, because the longer it steeps, the more powerful the medicine. And then another trophorestorative that I use in melatonin is holy basil, or tulsi. And just so you know, tulsi is also classified as sometimes as a relaxant as well as an adaptogen. And so along with milky oats, it's one of my favorite herbs because it really has a lot of benefit for the body and mind in a myriad of ways. And again, it's not typically seen in most products in this particular market. And then rounding out the botanicals in Mellow Tone, I bring in reishi and ashwagandha as mild adaptogens, to be used in conjunction with the nervine action to help restore and rebuild the CNS. There's a little bit of nutmeg in there, which not only helps restore pain, helps with pain and inflammation, but it also has a calming effect, which can help with anxiety and depression. It can also help with digestion and skin issues, and can even act. In fact, I believe nutmeg is also even classified maybe as an aphrodisiac, although that's not why it's used in there. But if you get that benefit, more power to you. Now, on top of all that, when you bring in all the other botanicals, like the powerful lacodon turmeric that I use, and the Ceylon cinnamon, and the cardamom, and the ginger, you have this really solid, powerful bag of botanicals that helps quiet the monkey mind chatter. And if you're like me, it turns off that jukebox, that incessant jukebox that plays nonstop in my head. It also helps to relax tense muscles, soothe frayed nerves, benefit digestion, quench inflammation, provide actual deep nourishment to organs and tissues so that you can actually sleep while also making your sleep be more productive, so that you wake up feeling refreshed and invigorated and have more energy the next day. And so this is the real power behind using Mellow Tone in the evening and how do you do during the day, because you're getting so much good food for the nervous system and the endocrine system and for the body as a whole, while at the same time, ideally, if you follow along with the things that I discuss, you're working on optimizing your lifestyle and environment to get your body, mind, and spirit reconnected with one another so that you can function like you're supposed to. So that's it, amigos. I hope you enjoyed this little educational video. As always, if you have questions or comments, fire away down below. And otherwise, have an awesome, awesome day.